I love you. He's like, Mom. Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. For today's video, as you can see, I have a guest. I haven't had Taz in one of my videos in a while, and he's getting very, very big. It's gonna be to the point where I can't have him on my lap very soon, so I figured I might as well sneak him in for this video while I still can. I'm going to be talking to you guys about my top 5 book tropes that I absolutely love. These are the tropes that I will actively seek out when I am book buying. If I can sense them in the synopsis, there is a 9.5 out of 10 chance that I will pick up the book for sure. But before we get into it, I just wanted to take this time to mention that on oh, that was a big squeak. On Saturday, this Saturday, July 25th, I will be holding my live reading sprints for the Reading Rush at 9 a.m. Eastern. Make sure you guys tune in for that. I'm super, super excited. I don't know, maybe I'll do a Q&A at some point during the reading sprints or something. We can talk books and stuff like that. I'm really, really excited. So make sure you guys tune in. It's going to be so much fun. Also, make sure you are following me on my social media. I am recently decided to kind of convert my Instagram into a bookstagram. So go follow me on my Instagram. I have started to post some book reviews of books that I have just recently finished reading and also books that I've read in the past. So go check them out if you want to just see some quick reviews. And make sure you're following me on my Twitter because I hold polls there for you guys to kind of give me your input on what videos you want to see next, and just you get to kind of keep up with my nonsense that happens in my daily life, which is kind of funny. So yeah, make sure you go follow me on my social media, and without further ado, let's get into it soon. But yeah, so before we get started, I'm going to do the same disclaimer that I do in every single one of my videos, and that is, do you want to say it? You want to say the disclaimer about Sissy? If you hear my Great Dane whining or crying upstairs, she's not hurt, dying, or anything about it. She's absolutely fine. She's just dramatic, but here on this channel, we deal with it. You're going to be very squirmy today, so I don't know if you'll be able to stay up here. This is what happens when you get big. This is what happens when you get big. Yeah, he's getting to be a big boy. But anyways, I'm super excited to talk to you guys today about book tropes that I absolutely love. Like I said in the intro, these are the tropes that I seek out and that I just thoroughly enjoy reading about. I don't know what it is about them, but they're just so much fun, and they're just like, oh, you have a dirty face. Oh yeah, thanks for the love. They're just the tropes that usually get me into a book, and I get very, very sad when they're done poorly. But yeah, these are the tropes that I love. So that being said, let's jump into it. Okay, the first book trope that I absolutely love is a doomed romance. Now, if you remember from the book tropes that I hate video, the very first book trope that I listed was in fact romance. However, the exception to that rule is a doomed romance. And the reason for that is I feel like it's just way more realistic to have a tragic romance. And that sounds so horrible, but I feel like for the large majority of people, romance doesn't always end in this happy, fluffy, fantasy like fairy tale way. So when I get the chance to read about a romance that I know is going to end tragically for whatever reason, I usually jump on it because I want to see how the couple can kind of deal with the impending heartache. And I feel like the best examples for a doomed romance, which I mean I'm sure most of you have heard of already, but would be The Fault in Our Stars, which is one of my absolute favorite books. 5 Feet Apart is another really, really good one. And The Sun Is Also a Star is a beautiful, beautiful rendition of what a doomed romance is. All very, very impactful books. I guess you could say, I don't like using like sickness as a trope, but that's usually where you see a doomed romance, is largely with books that have the main characters having some sort of ailment. But that's definitely a trope that I do enjoy thoroughly. I just find it to be a lot more hard-hitting and more impactful than a romance that's just like really happy and fluffy and like just happy-go-lucky type of thing. So I will definitely, as much as I don't like a fluffy romance, I love a doomed romance, if that makes any sense. I hope it does. Are you gonna squeak that? Yeah. All right. And the second book trope that I absolutely love is a mean hero. This is a little bit weird, but I cannot stand a self-righteous, like God-sent hero. I don't know why it irks my soul the way it does, but it does. There's something about a hero who has no problem putting the whole world before themselves, or the one other person before themselves, or something to that that extent. It irritates me. I don't like it. And again, I don't find it to be very realistic. Humans are flawed. We're mean and we're selfish, or at least we have the tendency to be mean and selfish, and the capacity to not put other people ahead of ourselves. So I prefer a hero that actually grapples with the fact that, you know, if I put so and so in front of me, if I put the world in front of me, there's a good chance that I'm gonna suffer. And I prefer, again, this fly, really, can you guys see it? I'm asking the camera if you guys can see something. Let me know in the comments down below if you can see the fly that I see. But oh, yeah, there goes my hair. No, that's why I gave you the bear. That's why I gave you the bear. Yeah, take the bear. Now I've lost what I'm saying, but yes, I prefer a mean, colder hero. I just find them to be a little bit more realistic, and I prefer a flawed hero anyways. Some books that I really like with a mean hero, or like a mean protagonist, would be This Dark Endeavor by Kenneth Opel and Savage Song plus Our Dark Duet by V. Schwab. I think that all three of those books do justice to kind of a colder, meaner, crueler hero, but they do it in a way where you're still rooting for the character. Like I said, the whole idea of like the Percy Jacksons of the world, who are just so selfless and so forthcoming. And don't get me wrong, I'm sure I haven't read the book, but I've seen the movie, and I've heard that the book the movie largely gets the book pretty spot on. But like the Percy Jackson heroes of the world that are just so self-righteous, or maybe not necessarily self-righteous, but just so willing to like die to save the whole world. I'm just like, maybe it's just because I'm not a nice person that I'm like, ugh, I don't know if I could do that. But then when I get to read about like Victor Frankenstein and This Dark Endeavor, I'm just like, yeah, that's a little bit more up my alley. So I definitely prefer a little bit more of a flawed, meaner, colder hero for sure. The third book trope that I absolutely love, like this is probably my favorite book trope, especially in YA contemporary, and that would be a road trip. I love road trip stories, which is actually hilarious because I have no desire to go on a road trip like at all, but I love reading about them. I think it's the idea that the author took so much time to research every single stop that the characters are visiting during like on their road trip, and when it's done well, you feel like you're on the road trip with them and that you're experiencing these places firsthand. And I love that. I think it's like when a road trip story is done well, it's done really well, and it's just a beautiful book to be able to get to experience for yourself. Really good examples of a road trip story would be Amy and Roger's Epic Detour. I haven't read it in a couple years, but I remember absolutely loving it. And also the thing with road trip stories is they usually come with like a really hard-hitting, impactful plot that I also like actively seek out, especially in YA contemporary. And I just find road trip stories do it the best. So like I said, Amy and Roger's Epic Detour by Morgan Matson. I Want to Be Where You Are. I can't remember the author, but I'll put a picture of it somewhere on the screen. And there's another, Love and Luck by Jenny, I can't remember her last name, but again, I'll put it somewhere on the screen. Those three are probably my top 3 road trip books for sure. Love and Luck is awesome because it takes place in Ireland and also throws a road trip in there too a little bit. It's just really fun. So yeah, road trip books but now let me also say, when a road trip book is done poorly, it sucks. So just be aware of that. Definitely, hey, just be wary of the fact that like I find I've never read an in-between road trip story. It's either really good or it's just awful. And I think if you've been watching my channel long enough, you know the one road trip story that I'm referencing that was absolutely horrendous and that had me questioning whether or not I actually liked the road trip trope. But yeah, love a good road trip for sure. Next, the fourth trope that I absolutely love is called the waiting evil. And if you don't know what that is, that's essentially when the antagonist of the book is this big bad entity or being that can literally strike at any time but is kind of just waiting until they feel like striking. And there's something about the fact that the bad guy can jump up whenever, at any point, but he's just waiting until he feels like doing it, that I absolutely love, because you literally never know when they're going to show up. The Cold is in Her Bones is a really good example of that, and also Serpent and Dove is a really, really good. Well, for Serpent and Dove, you kind of knew when the bad guy was coming because there's a little bit of a timeline there, but The Cold is in Her Bones, really, really good example. For The Waiting Evil, there's always a slight timeline, but the protagonists usually don't know of the timeline. So it's kind of like you're sitting on pins and needles waiting for this bad guy to just kind of pop up. And I really, really like that. It's not one that, it's more of a fantasy thing that you'll see. Obviously, there's usually not a really big bad entity in contemporary, but that's definitely something that will draw me into a fantasy if I sense that there is a waiting evil at the end of the book, for sure. How's the bear? Yeah, you're doing pretty good. You're doing pretty good. We're gonna go to Starbucks after. My little Starbucks buddy. And the last book trope that I absolutely adore, I feel like it's a book trope, but also, I guess, a TV trope, but it would have started off as a book trope because all the TV shows or movies are usually based off of a book, and I'm rambling, but it's the idea that monsters kind of live among us and that they're normal, if you will. The most in-your-face example of this would be Twilight and the Vampire Diaries. And I guess for, again, a book would be The Savage Song. The Savage Song in Our Dark Duet is literally just a book about monsters. And V. Schwab just does an absolute beautiful job of creating this world where monsters are not only known about, but utilized and normalized. And I love it. I love it so, so much. I like the idea of monsters that are known among us. Oh, and also The Price Guide to the Occult, but the monsters in that were witches. So yeah, and they were able to live among like the general population and people knew about them. But I like the idea of monsters living among us because it usually teaches the very valuable lesson that majority of the time the monsters you need to be afraid of are humans. And I really, really like that lesson, and I like seeing that lesson be taught in various different ways. So, and sometimes the monsters you need to be afraid of are the ones that go bump in the night and hide under your bed, but regardless, it's usually humans you need to be afraid of and that have the capability to be more monstrous than the monsters that are being written about. Sorry, I just threw all my hair in your face. I know, that was mean. He's like, no, Mom, that wasn't mean. I just get to eat it now. Eat your bear. It's not even his bear, it's Robbie's bear. But yeah, definitely like a normalized monster trope. That's it's pretty cool when it's done, again, when it's done well. So yeah. Okay guys, so that pretty much sums up my 5 tropes that I absolutely love and will actively seek out when I am book buying or looking for a book to borrow, although I haven't been to a library in a very, very long time, especially due to COVID. But definitely the tropes that I will seek out when I am purchasing a book. Please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know in the comments down below what book tropes you love. I'd love to hear about it, and give me some recommendations based off of tropes that you guys like. Make sure that you are following me on Twitter and my Instagram. I have recently started posting book reviews on my Instagram, so make sure to follow me on there if you want to see just some really quick book reviews for books that I've recently read or read in the past that I will also be posting as well. So go check that out, and make sure you're following my Twitter. I hold polls on there so you guys can kind of give me your opinion on what videos you want to see coming up and just the general nonsense that goes on in my daily life, especially having a house full of animals. So yeah, make sure you're following me on my social media, and I will see you guys on Saturday at 9 a.m. Eastern Time for our live reading sprints. Very, very excited for that. Make sure you're tuned in, and I will see you in the next